Hello, my name is Mark and welcome to this edition of Mustangs Plus and Restomod's How To. In this edition, we're going to introduce you to a new electric assisted steering known as EPAS. That's the acronym EPAS, Electric Power Assisted Steering. And what this does, it features a unit that is electric and when hooked up properly eliminates the old style power steering, which consists of the ram, the control valve, all the hydraulic hoses, the pulleys. And with this system, once it's installed, it'll make it so much easier and you will have power assisted steering via electric. To do that, this kit comes with a control box, a potentiometer which actually controls the level of assist that you will get in the unit. It comes with the firewall plate, whether or not you're doing a early car or late car, and I will touch on that. When ordering this, you need to be specific in terms of 65 to early 67 uses a straight steering box. Late 67 through 70 uses a rag joint. We're going to install this in a 1968 Mustang Fastback with the rag joint, and to do that we're going to have to take a steering column, cut it. We're going to have to take the shaft, cut it, and adapt it to this unit. But once it's adapted and installed in the car, we'll have power assisted steering and it will make our driving our Mustang that much easier, that much more comfortable, and we'll have a blast doing it. Okay, this is our 1968 Fastback car that we'll be installing the EPAS system in. As you can see, it does not have power steering, and we've elected to use the EPAS system for simplicity. In using the system, we're not going to have a pump, a ram, a control valve, any hoses. All we're going to have to do at this point is down here at the rag joint on the box, there's one bolt that we're going to disconnect, and once we disconnect this and the other components in the interior, we'll be able to pull the entire steering column through the firewall, out the car, and that'll begin the process of installing this EPAS system. Okay, we're back in the car, and on completion of removing the entire steering column, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the bolts attaching the collar to the steering housing. On the firewall, there's 4 bolts that hold the column to the firewall. Once we remove those 4 bolts, this collar will be able to slide this whole column out, lift it out, and that'll begin the process of getting our new EPAS system in the car. Today we're going to remove the steering column from our Project 1968 car. In addition, to facilitate the removal, I've already removed the rag joint that goes onto the steering box. It just requires that this bolt be taken off right here, and then this rag joint pulls completely away from the steering box. In addition, because of the way the EPAS system mounts, to make it easier, I've already removed the air box from this 1968. This way I've got more room to work with, and then once we got it installed, I'll be able to put this back in or make some modifications to it so that we can get the whole unit assembled. And with that, let's get this steering column removed. Okay, we're getting ready to remove the firewall retaining bracket. I've pulled back the insulation so we can see that the attaching hardware. And with that, we'll just start taking out these screws. There's 4 of them. Once they're out, everything will come right out. Okay, we're getting ready to do the final removal of the steering column, but first let's make sure we remove the turn signal switch connector. Right here, it comes out. We take it completely off here. There's a bracket. And then we have 4 nuts we have to remove up here, which hold the steering column onto the dash. Once these are removed, we'll be able to just drop the entire column. Okay, we're ready to pull this out. We've got all the nuts out, and we're going to drop the column, and we're going to feed it right from the firewall past the insulation, and it should come right out of here. Okay, here we go, and there it is, all done. Column is out. Okay, here is the EPAS firewall retaining bracket. It's got the bearing attached. It's got the decoupler already in there. We're going to put this right through the firewall, and we're going to use the same existing firewall sheet metal screws. Once we get it all lined up, we'll cinch it down and we'll show you what it looks like. Okay, we're in the engine compartment, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the splined end of our D shaft, slide it right onto the steering box, just like so. Then we're going to take this lock nut and Allen wrench, tighten it down, lock it down with Loctite, and that will solidify this part of the installation to the steering box. This is the unit that we'll be modifying today. We'll be cutting our column. We'll be installing our control module. We'll take our column completely apart. We're going to take out the turn signal switch, the hold down bracket that goes to the column. We're going to take out the shaft, and we're actually going to take this whole column and cut it. We'll take our measurements. Always remember, measure twice, cut once. We're going to cut it, and then we're going to reassemble it, and then we're going to install it on our EPAS motor, install it in the car, test it, and show you what it's like. Here we go. Okay, we've taken our column, which came out of a 1968 fastback. Here's the column completely taken apart. The wheel's gone. The turn signal wiring is taken out. Here it is right here. We've pulled the whole unit out. We'll be reusing this. We're gonna cut this particular. We've measured it. We're gonna cut right here at this point. It measures out exactly the way we want it, and we're gonna cut this on our chop saw. We're actually gonna place it in here. We're gonna brace it down. We're gonna fire it up, and we're gonna cut it. Again, we've already measured it. This is our preference for cutting it. You can also cut this using a Dremel or a high-powered speed cutter, or you can use a hacksaw. Whatever is available, just make sure you measure twice, cut once. Okay, we're going to cut that. We have already cut our shaft on the same machine. Here's our shaft. It's already been measured out. We've cut it using our chop saw, and this is the end result. Once we get everything cut, we're going to show you how to drill the coupler that attaches to your EPAS motor and how it attaches to this. Once we get that all done, we'll do the final assembly, and we'll be able to get it installed and show you the final product. Okay, welcome back. We've already cut our column tube. As you can see, it's cut. We've cut our shaft. Again, we've measured twice, cut once. All these measurements are going to be different if you're doing an early car, so please measure twice, cut once. This column, now that it's cut, will actually fit and slide completely onto the motor housing, just like that. This is how it's going to go. The shaft will actually come up after we've mounted it. Before we do that, we're going to take this back off. We're going to drill the attaching coupler. Once again, we're going to drill holes onto this coupler just like this. We're going to put it in our drill vise, cinch it all up, power this drill up, and actually drill the holes down. One here, and then we're going to rotate this. We can actually rotate the shaft 90 degrees, and then we're going to drill the second hole all the way down, and then we're going to put the set screws or bolts in there that'll tie that down, and then we're going to take the shaft, put it in on this side, and do the same process. We're going to drill holes to set it, to hold it. We're going to Loctite it, make sure everything's tight. We're going to get our column, put it back on with the shaft on, and we will have a complete unit ready to install, and we'll show you the rest of the process as we go through this. Okay, we're back again. Now here's our coupler. It's already been drilled out, and we've already tapped it with the supplied tap that came from the EPAS company. This actually goes in, you tap it all the way through the coupler, through the shaft, and also on your steering shaft, which goes in, and you also tap that all the way through, same thing, 90 degrees. We will Loctite our set screws in, and this puppy will be ready to bolt up. Okay, we're going to do this right now. We'll show you the basic concepts of getting the Loctite, putting it on, just a little bit will do, and actually putting it right through our coupler. Okay, we'll set those, and then we'll get a wrench, we'll tighten them all up. We'll take our shaft, same thing, we'll get that set in. We'll Loctite these set bolts, so there's two on each side. We'll Loctite those in, 1, 2 right here. We'll get that little guy in there, and we'll get those screwed down. Here's the fourth one. We'll get that one started, get them Loctite. Once that's all done, we'll take our column that's already been cut. Before we do that, we'll make sure that our turn signal switch is threaded through here. We'll get it, we'll put it on the column. One other thing we're going to do, and we've already drilled a little small pilot hole here, we're going to put a set screw here, and what that's going to do, it's going to prevent this motor from ever having to turn in the column. I'm not saying that it will, but this is just a prevention so that we know it's not going to turn once it's mounted up in underneath the dash. So let's finalize this. Let's get them Loctited. Let's get them tightened down. We'll get the bracket mounted. So our next segment will be ready to install this in the car. Okay, we have finalized our EPAS system. Here's the column. It's hooked up to the motor assembly. We've got the turn signal switch hooked up. We're going to attach our steering wheel once we get it in the car mounted. First, we're going to take the control module. We're going to mount this under the dash out of sight. It has the connections. Here's the potentiometer, which we will hook up under the dash. This controls how much pressure to apply to the power assist. We have one wire here that goes to the ignition circuit so that when the ignition is on, you have power to the box. Inside the box is a relay. The relay will kick in and send 12 volts to the battery. It'll get its power from the battery. We'll splice this in under the dash through the firewall. Directly to the battery is where we will be drawing our 12 volts from. It's fairly simple from this stage on, and one thing I want to cover is when we took apart our steering column, we had this tube in there which is designed to center it and keep it from sliding out. You do not need this. Don't throw it away, keep it for future reference, but just so that you know, you do not need that tube. And with that, let's get the car, let's get it going, let's get it installed, let's show you what EPAS is all about. Okay, we've got our EPAS control module that we're mounting underneath the dash, way up high. There's a bolt that comes through the firewall. We got it mounted. we're going to take this wire, we're going to route it through the firewall, which will go to the battery. The unit will already be grounded to the firewall. This wire, we have already put an end on it, which we will actually tie into our, this circuit right here is 12 volts when the ignition is on. We'll plug it in right here, just like so. And after we get it all tested and mounted, we'll fix the wiring, we'll tape it off, we'll route it accordingly, and we'll put back our heater plenum, which you notice is missing. Okay, we're in the car. We've got our column, our EPAS column, motor. The whole assembly is now going to attach just like it was with an original stock column. We get it mounted, get it lined up, get it up. We get our fasteners. Get them in. That'll hold the column up. A little awkward, but it's doable. Okay, the column's in. We're going to attach our U-joint from the steering box. Which is in. Okay, we'll get our last retaining nut. And I've got a socket that'll get in here. We'll just snug these up right here. And as you can see, the column's fairly snug. Our shaft, our U-joint going to the steering box is in. We've got this unit plug, which is going to go to the control module. Just route it up underneath the dash, just so that it's not hitting anything. And we'll route that up to the control box. Tie it all together. That's in. We've got power to our module. We've got one last connection right here, and we'll tidy up the wiring once we're all done. Okay, that's in. We'll wire up our turn signal switch after the fact. We'll test it. We'll attach our parking brake the way it's supposed to be. And once that's all done, we'll get our seat in, we'll get our steering wheel in, and we'll show you how this thing works. EPAS, Electric Power Assisted Steering. No fluids, no hoses, no leaks. And as you can see, I'm turning it, and it's pretty tough to turn, just like that. The only thing we haven't hooked up is our turn signal, and we'll do that later. We'll also route and tie up all the wires underneath the dash so it looks real presentable. But as you can see, it's pretty tough to turn. Now I'm going to turn on the ignition. I'm not going to start the car. I'm just going to turn on the ignition. There's a little click that goes into the control module. Now look. Power assisted steering. One hand. Wheels are turning. Engine's not running. This is great. I can't wait to get it on the road. Hi, this is Mark again with Mustangs Plus Resto Mods. We've just installed the EPAS, Electric Power Assisted Steering, in our project car. We're getting ready to take it for a ride, and we want you to come with us, see how it responds to the road. Let's go. Okay, we've got our Project 68 on the road, and as you can see, we've got our EPAS system. And it's very responsive. We've got power steering. We're driving down the road, and feels really good, really good. Now some of you may be wondering what happens if I lose my control module what happens to my steering? Basically, if you lose your module for whatever reason, you just end up with standard steering. You just don't have power steering. And we'll pull over here and we'll actually turn off the unit and you'll be able to see it. Okay, we're going to turn it off. It's completely off. Fire it back up. We have no power steering. I've got it turned off. I've got to use two hands to turn it. Here we go. All we have is just regular steering. It's a little bit tougher to turn the wheel, but that's only because this is a standard steering car originally. Without the EPAS module working, you're not tied to anything that might cause you to break down on the side of the road. You just keep right on going. We'll pull off up here, we'll turn the module back on, and we'll proceed on back. Okay, let's turn our EPAS back on again. Turn it off. Turn the system back on. Turn the key. Wait for the click. We've got power steering. Here we go. Very responsive on the road, very responsive. The car doesn't wander, it holds true. This power steering, no hoses, no pump, no belts. Totally electric. You don't hear any buzzing of the motor. It doesn't take any. It doesn't take anything away from the engine as far as horsepower. It handles great.